If you call that nearly being killed, you haven't lived yet. You stay with me and you will get a lot nearer. Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the Ribos operation, written by Robert Holmes and directed by Image of the Fandel director George Spencer Foster. This is a 4-part adventure, and not only does it introduce the first incarnation of Romana, the first Time Lord companion since Susan, the first companion, but also the story is the first start of the first ever Doctor Who story arc, season story arc, as this particular season all centered around the key to time, and each story is about our characters trying to find a segment of the key to time so that the White Guardian can protect time itself. And I have been known for being very critical against story arcs like these. I find them a very cheap way of getting audiences into the storyline. For example, a lot of these story arcs have like a main villain whose real identity is hidden, and most of the storylines is either people go in, who is he? We're going to have to wait until the final episode. Or it's minor villains from one-off stories getting overpowered by this main particular villain. Or there is something like a strong plot element that distracts from the rest of their stories. But I actually like the key to time in terms of concept. Anyway, in terms of story, we'll be delving it into each by bit, and I'll explain my my thoughts on the overall storyline at the end of the story arc. But for now, in terms of the premise, I actually do really like this kind of story arc. The story arc is basically just setting up the story of its particular story, in which the Doctor and Romana has to basically find a MacGuffin, and apart from really that, you could go into any other story blind as a bat and you'd be none the wiser. So I do really like this kind of story arc, and but how does the kick off? How does the Ribos operation work in terms of this setting up the story arc? We start off in the TARDIS, and the Doctor and K9 are talking about going on holiday. This is now K9 Mark II, as K9 Mark I has left with Leela back on Gallifrey. But the Doctor gets interrupted as all the TARDIS lights go black, and then a beaming light comes through the TARDIS door, and something is overpowered, taking the TARDIS, and the Doctor, without being described who it is, realizes that this is the White Guardian, one of the guardians of the universe that keeps balance throughout the cosmos. And it is here that the White Guardian explains that the key to time is a cube that controls the equilibrium of time itself, and it should never be used really by any one individual, but the chaos, the balance is being shifted to one side, and so the White Guardian needs the cube to respawn balance into the universe by stopping moment for a fragment of time, so he can fix everything. And so he sends the Doctor on his quest, and whilst there he says that he'll be given a device which will help him track each segment, and that he'll be having a new assistant to help him, another Time Lord. And so when the Doctor goes back into the TARDIS, he gets introduced to Romana. Now, in terms of setting up the plot, I really love this scene. I love the atmosphere, especially when the light beams into the TARDIS, and that really awesome organ music starts blasting. It makes you feel like you're watching some sort of religious experience happening to the Doctor. And when the Doctor goes out, it's like a deserty wasteland, and this really weird, like, posh man is drinking green drink, I believe it was, and he explains the mythical power of the key to time, and it really helps set up that this key is nothing to be to mess around with. This is some really important stuff, and because it happens right at the very start, it means that the rest of the story can just be telling its own story. And so the Doctor gets introduced to Romana, a sort of a young Time Lord, probably in her first regeneration, and she's a lot smarter than the Doctor in many ways, and she makes comments about how his actions are by a misguided subconscious like stuff. Like, she's basically like a therapist, psychoanalyzing the Doctor and everything. And I am going to admit, as much as I do really enjoy the story, I think Romana in this story is really weak. Poor Mary Tam, her first story was a very weak one for her, as basically what they've done is with most companions, they either are normal intelligence, or the companions like Leela, they're a little bit like underdeveloped in terms of modern humans. And in terms of it, that might be an issue on itself, because you could argue that it makes the stories like so that they can get stuck all the time and they need doctors for help and stuff like that. But other companions do get a lot to do when it comes to their time to shine, like Sarah Jane's journalism, or Leela's savageness and her independence in terms of like taking action. But with Romana, because they've set the bar in terms of what she can do so high, because she is basically the Doctor but more in terms of her being the smart one. But because they've set the bar so high, the only way they could go in terms of companions is down, as now that when we get to the cliched companion moments, like when they get trapped or when they need the Doctor for saving, in this particular story anyway, I don't know, I can't remember if it affects the other stories. We'll get there when we get there. But in this story particularly, all those moments feel really weak, because instead it shows that Romana feels like she should be capable, but she really isn't. And you just feel like, why was the White Guardian wanting her help? Because she doesn't really do anything in this story apart from really wander about, get captured, call the Doctor, make some psychoanalyzing, which really slows the plot down. And yeah, so despite the rest of the story, Romana has a very weak start in this, and I feel really bad, because Mary Tams is a fantastic actress, and she does do her best anyway to hold up with Tom Baker. Now, as I've mentioned before, this era of Graham Williams' Doctor Who is basically what we would consider the Tom Baker show, as Tom Baker gets a lot of control behind the scenes, and it seems like he can basically do anything, and the show mainly feels like a Tom Baker slapstick comedy than what Doctor Who really should be, if that makes any sense. And that issue if you can consider it an issue. A lot of people like it. I like it anyway. That feeling anyway is really emphasised in this story, especially how the Doctor and Romana walk around in this castle and basically own the place. So the Doctor discovers that one of the keys to time is on the planet Ribos. Now when they're there, there's a castle and they're holding two particular people, two aliens to the planet. Ribos is a grade 3 planet, which means not only do they not know about space travel, but they still believe in like gods and believe that the world is flat. So they're very primitive in terms of human intelligence. But two of them are actually aliens. One of them is this emperor person who's trying to find a new home planet. What's his name? I can't remember his name. Something K. I'm just going to call him K. And basically he was basically a warlord for a gigantic empire, and he helped win a lot of wars. But when he went back to his planet, by which he let his brother rule, the entire council chucked him out and exiled him. And so he's looking for a new planet to start a new army so that he can basically force them back into his empire. And this is actually a really good villain. You do feel a little bit sympathetic towards him, especially with the second alien character being a con man, basically tricking him into what he's buying. There are a few other alien characters, but these are the two main ones. And Kay, you can see he's a very passionate man. He feels really betrayed, and he gets a lot of great shouting moments. So I really do like the villain here. And there's also, like I said, the con man. And basically, what he does is he tries to sell planets by giving these people, but really he's not. He's tricking them into money. And what he has is he has a bit of blue rock, which is Jaffa, I believe it's called Jaffa anyway. Let's see if it says on the back. It doesn't say anything on the back. But anyway, this mineral, which is apparently really, really rare and could power an entire star fleet. So what he does is he puts it into a cabinet and acts like this stuff is common on this planet, and tries to sell people, the Empire, believing that they're going to get this, but really he's been conning them, and he's going to take the money and take the rock and do it all over. And whilst here he has a sort of like a young psychic companion, psychic, like a sidekick, not like he's psychic, as in Batman and Robin sidekick. And I really love these characters. I love the bumbling personality of the con man. He reminds me a lot of Del Boy from Only Fools and Horses, and the young apprentice is basically like Rodney, basically the normal man who gets caught up in these shenanigans. But really, he just wants to live like a normal life. And I really like these characters. With the Del Boy-like character, he puts on such a great performance and a great role that you can't help but feel charmed by him. And when the Doctor discovers that he is a conman and stuff, even the Doctor has a great chat with him and he gets along with him very well. I would actually really love Big Finish to make a spin-off with these two characters. I think that would be absolutely amazing. We also get the young man, and he starts off just a side character for him, but later on, when it ends in the con, and he basically goes to take the rock back, but he fails as Kay discovers that he's basically being conned, and so he's running through the village, and he befriends an old man who hides him from the guards, and the young boy is like, "Why did you save me from this person? You don't know me." And then the man's like, "I know what it feels like to be the only person on your side." And there's a small scene with these two characters talking. I absolutely love it. It's one of those scenes that doesn't get talked enough. And it's just such a sweet moment, and it always sticks out in my memory, in which basically this old man explains his backstory, in which he believes that the ice crystals in the skies, the stars, aren't ice crystals at all, but suns, just like Ribos is his own, and each of those suns will have planets of their own. And the young man basically starts off like that's a crazy theory, but it sounds plausible, and the old man like cheers up, and then the young man's like, "What if I told you not only are you absolutely right, but in the future people are going to tell you that you are right, and that I'm living proof as I'm actually from the stars." And there's a really sweet moment in which he just holds his hands. It's just a small little quiet moment. Man, Robert Holmes is just fantastic with small moments like that. Really, really high props to this plot. And so the Doctor and Romana are trying to find out where the key to time is, and originally Romana anyway thinks it's the crown. However, when the stone gets moved, they notice that the location has moved as well, basically explaining that the rock is part of the key to time. And so the Doctor and Leela try and get to them, whilst Kay is trying to get the rock as well and try to kill everybody who betrays them. And the last two episodes are basically just a run around, basically just this. But it is very great. It's a very great and entertaining story. And when you get into the caverns, you get these characters all trying to team up with each other, and to try and stop themselves from trying to stop Kay's people. And the con man tricks Romana to give him the rod. Well, she doesn't give it. He pickpockets her so that he can find his friend and they can escape. But when he meets up with him, the young man waits for the old man, who has gone back to try and find the con man, to help the young man, if that makes any sense. However, the old man accidentally leads the bad guys to the con artists. And this bit, I actually do criticise. The death of the old man, I felt that was really unjustified, and it was just a really bummer scene. And it felt really unnecessary to kill this character off. It doesn't bring anything to the plot, anything to the story, other than to make the villains a bit more threatening. And I don't know, I never liked this scene, in which it felt a bit like just a really bummer moment that really just neared down a bit. But it's like a small scene, and so Doctor helps away and blah 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 blah. And whilst this is also happening, Kay has found a fortune teller on the planet, and she explains that all but one of them is doomed to die. And I'm just going to say off the bat, the acting in this story, all around the board, is absolutely amazing. It's maybe some of the best acting in a long time in the show. But that old woman really lets it down. There's some really moments in her. She doesn't really come across as a fortune teller. She feels like she's a con artist herself, and not in a way that I think the story wants you to believe. Which makes Kay really crazy as he, as slowly his entire men, including one of his most trusted allies, start dying. And it comes up to just him and one of his guards. And what he does is he plants a bomb onto the guard and is like, it is an honour for you to die for our cause. And he walks off crying, only to go boom, and he dies. And it reveals that the guard is actually the doctor. And so this is actually one of a few cases in which the doctor is directly responsible for a humanoid character's death. So that's just an important thing to note. And so the doctor takes the stone and converts it into, well, Romana converts it into the first key to time, and so the adventure of the key to time really kicks off. So that's the Ribos operation. Overall, it is actually a really great story. Maybe Romana is a really weak element in the story, as she gets very little to do, but it has some really fun characters, a really great setting, in which it's like this northern eastern Viking Russian, like with all the furs and stuff. Just a really great moment of storytelling. And I'm surprised this story doesn't get a lot more discussion about it. I think this one deserves to be talked about. So there you go, that's the Ribos operation. So join me next time where the Doctor and Romana find some crazy people shrinking planets, and there's a robot talking bird. Why not? So join me next time for The Pirate Planet. See you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra.